Hey Jeff, thanks for joining me.
Hey, Steve, thanks for having me.
Oh, good to have you. Today we are talking about a new headline, a very scary headline. Bad property debt is exceeding reserves at the largest U.S. banks. We've seen commercial real estate losses growing, and the average reserves at, say, J.P. Morgan, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Citigroup, Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley have fallen from a buck 60 to 90 cents for every dollar of commercial real estate debt on which a borrower is at least 30 days late, according to the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. Um, the deterioration took place last year after delinquent commercial property debt for those six banks tripled to 9.3 billion across the wider U.S. banking sector. We've seen the value of delinquent loans double last year to 24.3 billion, up from 11.2 the year before. U.S. banks now hold about a buck 40 in reserves for every dollar of delinquent commercial real estate loans. That's down from $2.20 a year ago, according to the FDIC. Um, but bankers are saying that they're prepared. Their reserves against delinquencies were higher than needed a year ago and now being drawn down as delinquencies rise. Um, the Bank of America's chief executive has said that the bank has identified just 5 billion in commercial property debt tied to buildings in the sector of the property market and which prices have dropped. And that's a figure he said that's pretty small for a bank that earned almost 30 billion last year and has more than 3.2 trillion in assets. And I think he probably's got a point there. Your thoughts on this headline and maybe it's a little scarier than it really is warranted.
You mean the media is trying to scare people to click in and read an article? No way.
Yeah.
Look, I think the truth in this is, one of the big points I think I saw was, one of them was dropped from 220 to $1.40 per every, delinquent debt that's out there. So they were overcapitalized on the side of any potential delinquency, and now they've had some delinquency uptick, so they've offset it. Yeah, that's probably a lot of delinquency uptick, but the truth is they probably are prepared or they're not. And we're not going to really know because we can't look at their balance sheet. We can't actually look at their direct debt and figure out what's there. But the other side is, ironically, when delinquency goes up, and we're talking about delinquency that's somewhere around 30 days late, when I was a lender, I wanted everything to be more than 30 days late because I made more money. So we're not even discussing the amount of income or revenue that they're generating off of the delinquency. So 30 billion could be a little underreported, when it could be ticking further north just because they are getting some delinquency. Doesn't mean it's bad.
Yeah, and I do think that, there could be some small banks that maybe in some markets they got overexposed. Maybe there's a bank out there that got overexposed to downtown San Francisco office or
For
some
sure.
bank that got overexposed to like, say Class B in Portland or Seattle or office or something like that. But by and large, you know, my what I've really seen is that the banking sector has really seemed to learn something out of 2008. And that we're just nowhere near that kind of situation. Or, you've seen headlines about how messed up China real estate is, and it really is. This isn't anything like that. We're talking about pretty well capitalized reserves for the most part that are just a bit less well capitalized than they
Well, I
were
think I
before.
think I think the other side, which is the missing variable in this, is we're discussing what their reserves are related to their delinquency. We have no idea and can't know what their each individual loan that we're discussing that's having an issue, what the leverage ratio is. We're not talking about the banks are going to, somehow they're going to lose money just because they have $1.40 or 90 cents from what used to be $1.60. They've got an underlying piece of collateral that's sitting there as well. So this is a just kind of a blind clickbait, forum for media to just go in and, hey, look what we found, without any real context.
Yeah, and I also think another really important point is the massive amount of money that's on the sidelines, looking for opportunities and distressed properties to come in and buy.
Yeah.
Um, I just, yeah, I definitely could see that there's some individual banks that maybe got overexposed to some particular markets that are having trouble. and you could potentially on an individual basis have some issues, but you know given what we're seeing in terms about the strength of the sector, how they really did tighten up post '08. I just, yeah, it's a scary headline, that the bad property debt is exceeding reserves at the largest U.S. banks. Uh, but it's just, I'm just not worried about an '08 repeat, based on what I'm seeing. And again, part of that too is just, I'd be more worried in terms of all the people that have, put money aside for opportunistic buys, that there's actually not going to be enough opportunistic buys for all the money sitting in the sidelines, hoping there's distressed properties to buy. I think that's actually the bigger worry.
Well, I mean, back to the point I made about your leverage. If you're leveraged at 50% on a value when the loan was originally put out, and somehow the value of that property lost 20%, you're still well leveraged, and you're not going to sell yourself for 10 cents on the dollar, or allow an owner to sell that asset for 10 cents on the dollar when you have low leverage, and you probably can get out for the same value of your leverage.
Yeah, no, I agree. And the other thing I would point out too is I don't like it, but the biggest banks are too big to fail. They're seen as strategic assets to the economy. The government simply will not let them fail. They probably won't even let key executives get fired, if they do screw up. Not necessarily a fan of that,
Steve,
but
now you're gonna trigger the golden parachute discussion again, and I don't think I want to go there.
no, no, we don't need to go there. But I do not see the U.S. financial system crashing tomorrow. I think again the story that is probably more likely is a lot of that opportunistic money aimed at buying distressed properties is not going to have enough properties to buy. Is probably going to be the challenge we're seeing. But we'll keep an eye on this. We'll see how it develops. Appreciate your thoughts, Jeff.
Thanks, Steve.
Okay, thank you.